Welcome to Fieldsports Britain. Coming up, government-funded pheasants. We join gamekeeping students in Sussex on their shoot day. Confessions of carp fishers. We're with the British pair who've just won the World Championships. Rabbits. With ferrets and lurchers, we join Shooting Times ferreting expert Simon Whitehead for a day on the berries. First this. Every time on Fieldsports Britain we've been featuring the amazing relationship falconer Roy Lupton has with his young goshawks. This week, however, we're bringing you a shocking story of Roy's attempt to save an injured wild golden eagle. His actions led to police raiding his house and ultimately the death of the eagle, something Roy and one of the top avian vets in the country believe is the fault of DEFRA and the RSPCA. Roy Lupton has been flying and rearing eagles and falcons for years. He's a member of the Hawk Board and an ambassador for the sport. Roy takes his birds out all over the country, but in winter he heads north with his eagles to Scotland to fly them in their natural habitat. It was here in the Highlands in November last year that one of his friend's eagles got into a fight with a wild golden eagle. The wild bird was badly injured, and Roy knew he'd have to try and save it.
The bird disappeared over a ridge, and my friends and I went over to see where she'd gone to. And as we came over the ridge, we could see that she was having a fight with a wild golden eagle. A female wild golden eagle had come in and attacked her, and they were fighting together. So we went down there as quickly as we could to separate the eagles. So the injuries that she had were lacerations to her crop. She had puncture wounds to her main pectoral mass, and she had a puncture wound through the top of her eye socket, down through her eye socket and through her upper palate. Luckily it hadn't punctured the eye itself. So, some quite nasty injuries there. The bird, in the condition she was, as far as I was concerned, it would have been irresponsible to leave her and try and release her. So it was obvious that we had to try and treat her.
Roy understood that if he were going to rehabilitate the bird at home, he'd have to do it by the book, as it's a criminal offence to take a wild raptor into captivity. He contacted the Scottish authorities and the Animal Health Unit of DEFRA. All those concerned appeared happy, and he was granted an open-ended temporary licence, because no one knew how long it would take to get the eagle back to full fitness.
In all honesty, it might as well have been a budgerigar for the amount of concern that they showed. It was, it was no problem. Just carry on, and we'll see how you get on.
After a few months, she was looking fit and healthy. Roy maintained her fitness levels with training, and she was in good enough shape to attempt a release back into the wild. Roy returned to Scotland in January this year, but the weather was against them. Again, he says, he informed all the authorities about the developments. In late spring, Roy was keen to try again. Just days before he was to head off, he says, DEFRA's Animal Health Unit contacted him, asking him to postpone the release so they could take a DNA sample. Roy agreed, but instead of a vet appearing at the front door, his house and aviaries were raided by Kent police.
It's very scary. I've never had any trouble with the law before. I've never never been accused of any crimes. And then when you open the gates and they all come swarming in and put you under formal caution for stealing a wild golden eagle from Scotland and holding an unregistered bird, all sorts of things start going through your mind. Obviously, the biggest threat from it was, I've spent my life with birds of prey and working with birds of prey. If I ever got prosecuted under the Wildlife Countryside Act, then it would preclude me from keeping the birds that I do keep. There's no way I would ever do anything that would jeopardise that.
The eagle was confiscated and taken to an RSPCA rescue centre in Sussex. Roy was questioned by the police, which passed the case to the Crown Prosecution Service. No charges were brought against him. Some of the most compelling evidence he offered up were recorded telephone conversations between him and DEFRA staff. His family run a financial services business, so all phone calls made from the office are recorded. It shows his regular contact with the authorities. He maintains he was hiding nothing.
The case was seen by the CPS, and with the information and the evidence I'd given them, they said that there was no case to answer to. And they in fact intimated to the acting sergeant that was in charge of the case that they found me to be the victim of the investigation.
But Roy's main concern was with the eagle. Roy asked DEFRA for a vet to visit the eagle at the centre. It took them weeks to arrange. Roy was eventually allowed to see the bird, but was escorted by the police. Finally, Roy was told he had permission to take the eagle home and care for it. But in the month she was at the RSPCA centre, her condition had declined dramatically.
When we were let into the RSPCA facilities by the police, I couldn't believe, the state that they were and the conditions that they were keeping the eagle in. All the advice that I'd previously given them when they seized the eagle had been completely ignored. The bird was in a stress condition. Her talons had been worn down because she'd been kept on a concrete floor. The only perching facility she had was a rock and a couple of mouldy logs. And the environment and the condition where she was very damp. You couldn't have asked for a more perfect harbour for aspergillosis spores, or for any other disease to start. I informed the police that I was very distressed that the bird was being kept in these conditions, and asked them to remove this bird, to remove the eagle from these conditions as quickly as they could, because it really wasn't suitable.
The eagle died just a few days after Roy got her home.
She actually started to make a slight recovery during the night, but unfortunately the next morning she passed away.
He decided to have an autopsy done. It revealed she had a lung infection and heavy metal poisoning.
There was remnants of rabbit carcasses, and there were the castings, regurgitated pellets from the eagle, and it was wild rabbit. One of the major concerns with any bird of prey is lead poisoning, so we don't feed anything that could have had any possibility of being shot. I expressed my concerns that this had been shot rabbit, and I was told that apparently the RSPCA x-ray all of their dead rabbits before they feed them to their animals. Whether or not that's the case, then I'm not the person to judge that. I would have thought that would have been an incredibly expensive operation to have to x-ray every single piece of food before you feed it to your animals, but there we go.
Roy has spent thousands of pounds on legal and vets bills. He blames DEFRA and the RSPCA for the death of the eagle he was trying to return to the wild.
Surely the bird shouldn't have been placed in their care if these people don't have the necessary experience. They've taken an eagle that was fit, healthy and ready for release and killed it.
We put the questions raised in this film both to DEFRA and the RSPCA. Neither organisation made anybody available to answer the charges of neglect, but both issued prepared statements. DEFRA said, "While we cannot comment on the details of this particular case as it's subject to an internal investigation, animal health officers with Kent Police attended a falconry, their own words, in Essex in the belief that the owner did not have the correct paperwork for the eagle." The RSPCA said, "Originally, staff were asked to hold the bird for a week and only had 2 days' notice to make the necessary preparations." It went on. The bird's stay extended to 1 month. The staff noticed green faeces after about the 3rd week, but the attending vet detected no other clinical signs of lead poisoning. No additional tests were undertaken on the bird, as they were then asked to return it to Mr. Lupton in June. The RSPCA said that its staff were extremely upset to hear about the death of this eagle. It adds that the RSPCA was not involved with the confiscation of the bird or its transport to Mallydams. For a full copy of the statements, see www.fieldsportschannel.tv and click on the backstage link. A shocking story. Maybe we need 2 new laws. One to stop the RSPCA from touching wild animals, another to stop the government from touching any animal. Now, a British pair have just won the World Carp Classic. The plumber and the accountant from the south of England beat 126 other pairs from 21 different countries. It was a gruelling event, Over 5 days, they got just 12 hours of sleep. We went along to meet them.
Exhausted, elated and very wet. The moment Rob Tuff from Dartford and his fishing partner Thomas Duncan Dunlop found they'd won the World Carp Pairs Championships. The duo finished head and shoulders above the runners-up, catching 26 enormous carp over the 5-day event, compared with just 8 caught by their closest rivals. So, what was it like?
You know, we were babbling, hyperactive, but we wouldn't have swapped it for anything else in the world. It was a fantastic week, and in all the years I've been doing it, even before Tom got involved, it's the best result possibly you can imagine. Winning these events is a pinnacle of your carp fishing career, if you like.
This very popular sport is far removed from the image of one man and his rod sitting for hours staring at a static float. It's a science, and to have any chance of reaching the very top of your game, you need great skill and to get into the mind of the fish, which can be enormous. This is just a small selection of the kit needed to try and outwit a wily old carp.
This is some of the gear, some of the tackle, some of the bits and pieces we have to use, certainly for these competitions in France. Bait, clips for your leads, for your terminal tackle, your main line, the hooks that you need to be using, your bivvies, your rods, your reels. Over the course of a year, it's a thousands and thousands of pounds sport and hobby.
But they also had some homegrown kit, which Thomas is particularly proud of, as he designed it, and he thinks it gave them a competitive edge.
You just never know with carp fishing. The reason why you caught it, you done so well. Was we lucky? Was there a lot of fish in the swim? Did we work our socks off? There's a lot of things that you have to kind of get right to catch the amount of fish that we kind of did. And I personally believe that these definitely helps.
There were no nibbles this morning at their home waters of the Darenth Big Lake, but they're hoping for more success in a few weeks' time when they head off once again, this time after a world record sized fish.
Now from fin to feather, we've been following the work of Canal Game Farm. Going back a month or 3, it's time to clip the pheasants.
It's now August on Canal Game Farm. All of the duck have gone, and most of the pheasants and partridge. This evening they're crating up 1,500 pheasants for a shoot in Hampshire. It's all hands on deck. Franny wants to make sure the job is done as efficiently as possible to reduce the stress on the birds. However, it's going to take a little bit longer than he thought, as this shoot wants the birds clipped. So why are they doing it?
We're just clipping the primary flights on one wing of the pheasant. These feathers that they'll be molting in the next few weeks for their new flights to come through. So when the guys, where these pheasants are going to, just stops them flying and they stay in their release pens for a little bit longer, and it'll help them manage the birds a little bit easier, and the birds will get used to their new home. A lot of people don't like them being clipped, so they make bigger release pens for the birds to try and stop them flying out quite so easy.
It gives that request into you whether they want them clipped or not, yeah?
Yeah, when they order their birds, they generally ask whether they want them clipped or unclipped.
Each crate takes 30 birds. It would be very easy to lose count and possibly upset a client or two. So Franny insists that each of his beautiful assistants delivers 5 birds at a time. Increased demand this year meant Franny and Andy at Canal Game Farm produced more birds. And even with the threat of an economic downturn, every bird has been sold.
Yeah, starting to plan already for next year on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
Anything you would change from this year?
Not particularly. It's been a very good year for us. It's gone well. It's gone very well. Got the birds out on time. The old weather's not been too bad for us actually getting the birds out this year. It's sort of worked really well. A few orders that have been put back because of the weather, but generally it's down to shoots not being ready and not getting their work done, but the birds haven't gone.
Is that something you anticipate every year? There's going to be some shoots that just haven't got themselves prepared?
Yeah, there always is, and there's late discussions with landowners on what they can do and what they can't do, and if they can build a new pen or repair an old pen. But no, generally it's gone very well. Hopefully by the end of this week we're pretty much all of our pheasants would have gone and we would be getting into our partridge.
Next time on Fieldsports Britain, we'll show you just how well these birds fly.
I can't fly either. Now settle down, class. We're going to learn about flying birds at their very best. Just how do you shoot woodcock? Well, we're here at the West London Shooting School, a superb layout with Alan Rose, who teaches the style of Percy Stanbury, and today it's woodcock. Now, Alan, witchy woodcock, wonderful birds in our popular imagination, but what we're talking about here really is snap shooting, isn't it?
Well, it's a driven shooting, yes, when suddenly they just suddenly appear out of the wood. You know, you can be waiting for, not always woodcock shooting, but waiting for a pheasant, all of a sudden a woodcock comes out and you just got to react and shoot it. You can't sort of start behind it like an old pheasant and go through it, or a partridge, oh there's a lead. It's basically just shooting it, you know. Or yes, if you can leave them long enough, yes, then you can turn around, you've got a lot more time to kill them in, but basically no, you've got to shoot them.
That means getting onto them quick, doesn't it?
Exactly, and also make sure, because like I said, woodcock shooting can be very dangerous. Somebody shouts out woodcock and there it is, oh, that's right, and you can shoot the next door neighbour if you're not very careful. Yeah, you've got to be
safety.
Absolutely safety first. Yes, yeah. Look for your woodcock. Look, you've got to know where your people are anyway when you're shooting anyway. But once that woodcock comes out, yes, you've got to shoot it, as long as it's safe.
As long as it's safe. Brilliant, Alan. Right, show us how it's done then.
Okay.
Right, first of all, Alan, guns empty. Show me a couple of simple mistakes that people make.
Simple mistake again. Well, with woodcock it's a little bit different, but yes. Simplest mistake is basically just sort of, oh, as it comes, it's not a poke, but yes, it's almost a poke, a woodcock. But you still got to try and find the line, whichever way it's going. You can't just, like that for woodcock. You still got to find that line, you know, that line to go with it, basically, yes.
Now, supposing it comes out, has a look at you, doesn't like what it sees and goes back in again. What do you do then?
You'd leave it, because basically it go back into the wood where the beaters are pushing them out. So you wouldn't shoot back into the wood. You've got to be out the wood, yeah, like any bird, yeah.
A wood like this does look very woodcocky, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Not enough brambles actually. I like a lot of brambles, yeah.
Right, let's give it a go with a real cartridge. Ready?
Yeah. Bit easy that one. Okay.
Beautifully done. Dust. Woodcock in any other country causes accidents. Luckily we have a great safety record over here, but could you show us some of the horrors that you have seen in the shooting field from people shooting woodcock?
Well, I haven't. Well, you don't, do you? You very rarely get an accident that way. Yeah, but shooting woodcock, yeah. I mean, yes, if they come out through the wood, it's like literally someone, you know, literally shooting straight into the woodcock. It goes straight in towards the beaters. Yes, or yes, coming out, oh, woodcock, oh, bang, shoot straight down the line to your next door neighbour. You know, but very rarely.
Well, what a day it's been. We've been out ferreting with Steve Taylor and Simon Whitehead of Pakefield Ferrets. You'll know Simon because you've seen him at game fairs and country shows all over the UK. Now, I won't reveal the final score, but let's find out what happened. Simon, we had a slow start to the day at the piggery, and it didn't work, even though the ferrets came out with rabbit fur in their claws. What went wrong?
Well, the rabbits there are obviously used to having animals walking across the top of them, so the vibrations alerted them anyway, and they're not going to come out if there's pigs in there, and that made life a little bit harder. Ferrets went down, and it could have worked one or two ways. We could have put the ferret in, they could have bolted, and everybody's happy. But the problem is, if it was that easy to catch them all the while, we wouldn't have 50 million of them. So sometimes the rabbits do get the upper hand. Today was one of those days where the ferrets stuck with them in the stop ends. Obviously, they were trying to turn them with a fur, but we were using ferrets, which won't stay there for a long amount of time, because obviously we've had no rain. We couldn't even get the jenny or pickaxe into the ground, and digging wasn't an option. So sometimes you just got to take your hat off to them and move off somewhere else, and we'll be back with some traps and some rifles to sort those rabbits out at a later date.
So ferreting's not the only kind of rabbit control?
No, you've got to chuck the kitchen sink at them. Trapping, netting, long netting, ferreting, everything, chucking at them. They've all goes together like the ingredients to a pie. If we'd have put in some of the ferrets what we were working later on in the afternoon, they'd have just stayed down there until we dug them out, and obviously we can't dig them out, so our style has got to change slightly to suit the terrain of which we're ferreting. So obviously this afternoon, when it's a bit softer, it was a bank. You know, they still weren't staying because the rabbits just didn't fancy it. But this morning, you know, the rabbits had flak jackets and tin helmets on. They were ready for us.
Today I noticed we had colour-coded ferrets. What were the three different colours? What did each colour do?
Well, the albinos were generally the experienced ones, although there was one or two young albinos in there today. The little sandy coloured ones from a friend Russell in Kent, and they were youngsters, and we've been bringing them on slowly. The polecats, again, they were experienced, but what we tend to do is when we have the undergrowth, we'll work the light coloured ones so we can see them. It's like having a stable full of race horses. You've got to pick the right one for the right race at the right time. Today, as we saw, we were using ferrets to suit the ground we were ferreting in, and especially we're using the ferret collars because if we needed to, we could, obviously we couldn't dig them out today, but at least we knew where they were.
Can we just move on from the piggery?
It
was a disaster for us. We were really sweating on that moment.
I know. Now, then it started raining at lunchtime, which added insult to the injury. So you stopped for rabbit pie, which is a good idea. But the afternoon, a lot better.
Well, the afternoon, I mean, to me, that is a beautiful day. Textbook sort of ferreting day out for us. Very, very steady. You know, the rabbits were working the warrens perfectly. We had a dog with us, of course, Maud was marking the holes, and she was really kind of just steadily going up and down. If you watched her, you could see her ears going, see her foot come up, and you know that things are going underneath the ground. And that to me is why I go ferreting. I love to see that kind of thing. I rustle with a few leaves, and a rabbit will just ball itself up into that net. Just great.
Simon, describe the terrain and geography and your tactics with this bank.
Well, the bank was big. It looked quite ugly to begin with because we've never ferreted it before. It was on a new contract, and ferreting a warren for the first time is about testing the water. You know, where the stop ends go, where the bolt holes are they joined, are they not joined? So we sort of second guess where we had a 400-500 yards of netting down. So we had to get all that to section it off into what I thought were sections, and then we ferreted from one end to the other, and what the purse nets didn't get, the dog got, or the long nets or the stop nets got. And because we were working a team of ferrets, they were working like a little squad, and they were just working through, and you'll notice how we just let them go on top of the ground, not keep disturbing the warren and walking over, just let them get on with it, and then it paid dividends. And moved slowly. The stubborn rabbits obviously didn't really fancy coming out, you know, halfway through it, but they had to because they didn't, as I said, they didn't fancy mixing it with this team of ferrets. Rabbits tend to stick to the roots and the base of the hedge and run down, and with the cleverly placed stop nets, we can then stop them. And it worked well today because one or two that did come out through a puff of twigs headed not out into the open field, they headed down and then into the stop net. And all the nets again complement each other. You know, you could just put your long nets down, they could have hopped from hole to hole. You could have put just purse nets down, and one could have broken, gone across the field. And so what we try to do is limit their chances of escape. So if we were digging or laying a net or dealing with a rabbit and one did come out, there's a big pair of hands there to catch it for us, because at the end of the day we're there to clear the rabbits. So, you know, we're going to use anything we can to do it.
Say 200-yard stretch of bank like that, what was the preparation time?
Probably about 3/4 of an hour, I think.
So as quick as we walk, we can put them down. The purse nets were quite time consuming, but once you get in the hang of it and you get them down, the worst thing about today was, as I said, the debris. Everything's dead. You know, you got twigs and everything, and you got to make sure nothing inhibits a purse in action of the net, because if not, you might as well not have it there. Later on in the year, January, February, we get a lot of youngsters about, which you've then got to counteract with a different sort of tactic. So, you know, during here we can hit the rabbit population when it's at the peak of their population, so there's no babies running about, and then do some damage. So when they do start breeding, the population will be reduced, and then we start again.
They're all big rabbits today, weren't they?
Yeah, they're all sort of full-grown rabbits. I mean, I prefer like a three-quarter-grown rabbit, something like that, you know, for eating. I mean, that's why I go for it, because I like to eat rabbits, you know. But a three-quarter-grown rabbit is much better to me for my idea for eating. But there was, well, we'll see how much sort of fat is on them. But this time of year, October, November, you know, they've had the summer, they've grazed, they've had their young. They're now in tip-top condition, really, for a restaurant or for wherever you want.
You take the cooking very seriously.
Yeah. My wife's a chef, and you know, she's working in one of the local catering colleges. And yeah, we love to eat game. I mean, the thing is, you know, there has to be some standards about this. You know, if you're going to go out and you're going to kill an animal, then you need to be able to prepare it and actually cook it. And it's not a difficult thing to cook.
Can we reveal to the viewers how many we actually got today?
Yeah, how many did we get today, Simon?
We got 16.
16, fantastic.
Yeah, which, considering the amount of time laying in nets and drinking coffee and eating rabbit pies and looking at pigs and listening to pigs laugh at us, it wasn't quite, you know, it wasn't too bad.
Well, look, here's to 16 rabbits. Well done.
Cheers, mate.
Well, you've read the book, you've seen the film, now let's eat the cast and have a look at what's on the menu. And guess what? Rabbit was on the menu. Modern students are lazy, feckless, and get life served to them on a plate. Do you believe that? Well, we're going to do nothing to dispel the notion as we join gamekeeping students on their pheasant shoot.
Every shoot day deserves a hearty breakfast. This one happens to be in a college cafeteria. It's the second shoot of the season for these students. The mix of first and second years on the game management course at Plumpton College in Sussex are responsible for today's sport. Well, course director Neil Bianchi does have his say too.
Oh yeah, Ed's on the first one, is he? That's why.
Yeah.
Ed made a
Oh
bit,
yeah, and then I've got that.
So it's Ed, then it's who's after Ed? Phil.
As well as rearing the birds, the lads look after the guns, draw pegs and control the line of beaters. Some of them only started the course a month ago, and many will have never experienced a shoot, let alone had the pressure of making sure the guns have a good day. So as the first drive starts, what do the lads think of their course?
The good thing is you learn a lot of paperwork and a lot of, like, instead of it's not just practical, you get the paperwork, theory side of it, so it will look good as a qualification at the end.
Traps and how to trap them, all the pests and predators and stuff like that, which you don't get to do at home, or I don't get to do at home.
The drive delivers a few birds, a startled doe, and a few startled students too. You might think courses like this might be on the wane, but not a bit of it. This one is going from strength to strength. So what gives Neil the most satisfaction from teaching this course?
It's probably the best of both worlds. I like the education and I love the gamekeeping side of it. And it's satisfying when the boys and girls work hard.
It's a beautiful day and the guns are having a great time, with some decent results.
It's always nice to get the first pheasant of the day that comes out. You feel a bit more relaxing.
But it's time to join the students in their very special classroom, and there's plenty to learn.
On we go, nice. Whoa, 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 it's not a race. Not a race. Very slowly, boys, come on. Very slowly, let the dogs do the work. There's the line. Good. What about that? Come on, right, there's a lot of birds in front of you, push it right out to the chalk track. Yeah. Very slowly, on we go.
Go on, go on.
Another drive and some more happy guns. So what are these students hoping to do with their education?
I did the MVQ in agriculture here first, and I was on a work placement as well doing that, and that sort of got me kicked off into gamekeeping, and that's how it sort of progressed from there. And it's the only way to sort of get a job nowadays is to have a college education. So
are you hoping to go into gamekeeping?
Hopefully, if all goes well.
I'm probably going to go and do a degree in something else. I haven't decided yet, but a degree in something to do with the countryside. Just see what I can do.
There's plenty of work that goes on behind the scenes on a day like today. These students are discovering it firsthand and could be looking after a shoot near you in the very near future.
Lucky, lucky students. Worth passing a few exams if the government's going to send you pheasant shooting. This programme's back in 2 weeks' time when we're going out with even younger people pheasant shooting, babes in arms practically. Next week, we're back with Shooting Politics, where Otis Ferry reveals more about breaking into the House of Commons. This has been Fieldsports Britain, the barb in the hook in the fish.